Alright, so we're trying to figure out a way to basically prevent the following issue. If I place down one of my portals, if I only have one down, it doesn't let me walk through it, right? If as soon as I place down the other, you can start moving through them. The problem is that, let's say, for example, um, I take my first portal and I want to place another guy right next to him, right? Well, now they're overlapping. So the problem that we're trying to fix is trying to make it so that they can no longer overlap and get these weird visual artifacts. So there's a few cases I can think about. If you just place it directly on the side, right? I can't place it directly over top of the other portal. It just doesn't let me do that, right? I've already fixed that, right? I've already made it so that there's basically a box around the each one of them, so I can't place them directly on top of each other. However, I can place them, just off to the side of them, and you can see they can overlap on the corners, on the top, and on the sides. Now, the real one that bothers me is the one on the bottom, because you can see how they can overlap probably like 80%. Like, it still works kind of as intended, right? I go in the bottom one and come out the top one. Um, so okay, let's do a little explanation how the portals work, so that way I'm basically treating this like a rubber ducky experiment where I try and walk through how the process currently works, so that way I can come up with a better solution. So when I just place a portal, what do? I I shoot a line from the beginning of my camera down to where my crosshair is, right? So you can see the dead center of the portal is right where I was looking. And then we do some follow-up, right? Once we've placed down the portal, we have to make sure it didn't do anything, weird, right? So let's say if I put the center of my crosshair, at the top of this guy, or my center of the crosshair at the bottom of this guy, what would happen is that the center of the portal will be right there, and half the portal will be underground. So what do? We basically check the corners of my box and say, "Hey, are you interacting with anything?" Right? So the first check is to check if it's overhanging, right? So if the corners of my guy aren't touching anything, that means it's hanging over an edge, right? Like if I try to put it, off the edge up there. So we check and make sure, and we basically scoot it back down to make sure that it nicely lines up with the top or bottom of whatever it's touching. And then the second check we do is we make sure it doesn't intersect anything, right? We're basically say, "Hey, Mr. Box, that's pretending to be our collider. Are you going to hit anything on the sides and try and intersect them?" And if not, we're good, right? But previously, it would allow us to basically like put this thing inside the wall, right? Okay, so those are the two current checks that we have, and the third check that might be useful is that um, if I were to look at this portal and try and place down a portal on top of it, what's going to happen is it's actually going to shoot. Um, it's like going to pretend that whatever I'm looking at is where I want to place the portal, right? So you can see it places it up there, or if I'll place it in the top right of this guy, you can see it places it in the top right. A secondary bug that takes place here is that due to the um, direction in which I'm facing, the portals can turn upside down, but we're not going to worry about that. But yeah, you can see that I can shoot the portals through each other, right? So between the reason I bring up these problems is that when I place these guys next to each other, first it does the overhang check, then it does the intersection check, and then it does a check to try and see if they're overlapping. And what I was thinking for a solution is that, if this guy, um, let's let me change something real quick. What I was originally thinking is that, if this guy and this guy are, let's say, overlapping like so. Let's take the like a vector, like basically like this red line, right? This, like, if we extend that out to like go from one center to the other center, and we basically say, is that distance longer than however these guys are wide? If not, then just keep moving it in that direction, right? So if they were overlapping like so, we would instead move it up in this direction until they're no longer overlapping, right? The problem with that is when we're done moving it, right? Let's say the orange guy started out. Let's say the orange guy started out. Come on, about right here, And then we're like, oh, okay, all you have to do is push it to the side. Oh no, now it broke my like overhanging wall checks, right? So I'm assuming the best way to do this, or a way to do this, is to basically try and push it to whatever side it's already relative to the other guy, right? So it's this guy's up and to the left of the orange portal is up and to the left of the blue portal. So what do? We keep moving him up and to the left until they're no longer colliding. And when it gets here, now we check if, this position isn't valid, right? We check if it's overhanging. And if it is, what do we do? We could flip it to I cannot grab this guy. We could flip it to the other side and do the exact same thing. But my problem with that is as a player, how do I expect this to work, right? Like if I have this blue guy here, let's move orange over here. If I have the blue guy right here and I right click right here, how should I how should I expect that to work, right? Should I just assume that's just not a valid position as a player and this just isn't allowed to work? Or if I right click here, should the portal really go like right there, the closest non-overlapping position? And that's kind of a user experience phenomena that I'm not sure how to handle. Because the point of the game, right, is to have like fluid mechanics and like maybe as you're like hopping around, you like have to place a portal quickly, and like if this interaction is weird in any way, it could kind of throw off that groove. So yeah, any recommendations welcome.